who you are, your journey. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
I'll just hand it over to you.
that sounds good. So who am I? The big, the big question, right? So I wear probably many different hats, but primarily a husband of 30 years, a father of two girls who are also Taylor Swift fans. Just putting it out there.
Yes.
They're OG Taylor Swift fans. Like we knew her before there was any eras type of fan, right? So I'm a cyclist, a meditation teacher, of course, an executive coach, a speaker. I'm a brother, I'm a son, I'm a friend. I'm a imperfect human trying to figure this thing called life out. I also have like a crazy near death cycling accident story that I call my last bad day. So no hyperbole here. I'm totally lucky to be alive. Uh, it was through my recovery from that accident that I found mindfulness, just to slow my recovery down as far as the overwhelm. It just felt so enormous. I needed something where I could just like call a timeout, like sort of in sports, and be like, let's just check yourself. As the great American poet Ice Cube once wrote, check yourself before you wreck yourself. And so for me, that was like slowing things down, finding my breath again so I could approach my rehab in the way that I thought was going to be most beneficial. And so that one moment has turned into a whole big thing with Pause, Breathe, Reflect, and an app that you guys have been so kindly enough to feature, and really just helping people come into this practice called mindfulness.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And your app is truly amazing, and you're
Oh,
very
thanks.
generous. You're very generous about, allowing people to just pay what they want to get the app, for a year. Um, and I went on the other day and I was telling Sarah, which I noticed that you can join your live meetings right from the app.
Yes.
So which is great. So that's, and I love, and what I was telling Sarah is, you're very much into the micro meditations,
Yes.
finding it doesn't have to be, and we talked a lot about this month with, our theme, that it doesn't have to be an hour meditation to get the benefit. It doesn't even have to be a half hour, the just 5 minutes. And I love what Wayne Dyer says, even if you're at a red light, close your eyes and meditate, because the car behind you will tell you when the light changes.
Yes. Yeah. Well, especially where I live in New Jersey, they'll definitely tell you in no uncertain terms that you are slowing traffic down. But yeah, the whole question around like meditation, like how long should I do it? Like what is the, when we think of medicine, it's like, well, how many pills should I take? What strength are they? Milligrams, should I take it once a day, twice a day, one pill, two pills? So from a medicine, Western philosophy around medicine, the dose is quite clear. There's instructions on how to take it. But with mindfulness, there really hasn't been, up until recently, a lot of research around, well, like, how do I do it? How long should I do it? So you have these beliefs going way back eons to say, well, you should practice for 45 minutes or an hour, or, where I'm classically trained as a meditation teacher, the practice was 45 minutes a day. And it's through mindfulness-based stress reduction. And a lot of us ask, like, well, why is it 45 minutes? And the answer we got back was, well, that's what John Kabat-Zinn, who created it, that's what he did back in the 70s. I was like, so we're just doing what he did? And I go, is there any research? Because I come from a healthcare world, a pharma world, where there's rigorous clinical studies. That was my former corporate career. So, but is there any studies to say, well, is 45 minutes too long, too short, like Goldilocks, just right? And so now that we're getting a lot of good research that suggests that shorter practices can matter even more so. They can be even more beneficial, because when we set this up, like it's trying to set people up for a new practice, a new way of living. And when we say, well, it's a half an hour every day, that's a big leap for so many people. And we're good for about 3 days, and it's like life happens, and then we go back to our old habits, basically not doing it. So what I share with people all the time, because a lot of people say, yeah, I meditate like I 3 times a month, like 10 minutes a time. And I'm like, okay, cool, better than zero,
Yeah.
better, definitely better than zero. But I would rather have you do a minute every day for 30 days than do 3 sessions of 10 minutes for 30 minutes in 30 days. So, because to really develop a good practice, really with anything, consistency has to be a hallmark of it, like a foundational practice. So I try to break it down into shorter practices so we can develop the habit, which then makes it just, well, this is just what we do. I pause, breathe, reflect. I just take a minute or two each day, and then we can build it from there when we get into the rhythm of it. And for me, and we could talk about this further, I see them as like little timeouts. Like if you're watching a sporting match, like a basketball game, like when the game gets really intense and stressful and really important, the coach will call it timeout. And what happens is that we pause the game. We don't stop the game. The game's going to continue. The game doesn't end. So we just pause the game. The players go over to the bench. They catch their breath. They towel off. And then the coach draws up the next play when the timeout's over, when they go back on the court. That moment is a moment of reflection. And we could do little timeouts throughout the day. And I think it would make us like be able to, it will help us navigate life with a little bit more ease.
Yeah, I love that analogy. And like one thing, when you open up your app, I mean, that's all you even have to do is just open up
Yeah.
the app, and there's like what, a minute of like breathe, and it's like just doing that, like you feel the calmness, coming over you.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we really went for, like the whole member experience. And the people in our community, we call them members. With a lot of apps out there, even in the meditation space, they refer to the people who use their app as users. And we really look at it like, well, what is a member of our community? Because we go to great lengths to make that personal connection. So if someone downloads the app, they get automatically like a personalized video that I send to them, welcome them
I
into
got
that.
that.
Yeah. So yeah, Sarah. So yeah. So because I'm really trying to make it about, yes, your practice to help like bring a little bit more calm into your life, but also about you're not doing this alone. Like you're part of a community. And I'm not like, as the meditation teacher, I'm not like some like far away like AI
Totally.
bot. Like I'm real. I got flaws and scars and all that jazz. And we're going to try to figure it out together. So like coming into the app, I really wanted to invite people just to like down regulate, slow it down, find a practice that would make sense. And then in that timeout, just, okay, how do you want to show up once the practice is over so you can put a nice ripple into the world?
Yeah. Right. And I also like how you call it your Peloton, right?
Yeah.
Your group of members and your community. You're all pedaling together. And um, the other saying that I was telling Sarah that I like what you say is the rocks in your backpack.
Yeah.
Unloading the rocks in your backpack,
Yeah, I have
because we
my
all have.
backpack right to the side here. So it's I'm gonna share that with a corporation. But we do at like a really young age, we maybe consciously or unconsciously put rocks in our backpacks. They can be like limiting beliefs about the world or other people, about ourselves. We all have a little voice in our head that tends to beat ourselves up. And you know, at least I know personally, I didn't grow up learning how to really deal with my emotions and stress all that well. So there was a point in my upbringing where I was sort of shamed out of my Irish temper tantrums. Like I was embarrassed by home movies, right? And like how I would behave after getting out in Little League. And I was mortified, although I didn't have that language back then. I just knew like I do not that's not happening again. But I didn't know how to process it. Like my anger and getting upset after striking out was one way to process the emotion. Now I was shamed into not doing that. So what I started doing is just picking up rocks after I struck out or had whatever, and I would just put them in my backpack, literally, maybe figuratively, and I would just carry that around with me, and it felt normal. And I just kept on doing that. And I think so many of us are walking around with really heavy backpacks of just stuff that we haven't processed, that maybe stuff that we can let go of now as adults, like we're, in our maybe 30s, 40s, 50s or beyond. I don't know if we need to carry that stuff around anymore. And so,
Michael, you froze. Are you there?
He's coming back.
That's
Nope.
Michael. Hello.
He's going on
Yeah.
very well on his talk, and he didn't probably realize.
It's life. This is life. This is how, life goes.
Yeah. Yeah, so
It's
true.
not, life is not perfect. Life is not perfect. If it were perfect,
Well, I don't know if life isn't perfect or if we just complicate life.
yes. Well, we did
there we
it. Yeah.
go.
There you go.
So we
Breathe in, breathe out.
breathe out. Exactly. So where we left off was where you were talking about, many of us have these big rocks in our backpack that we continue to, walk around with.
Yeah.
And
And so, so the part of the process that I love to work with people on is like, how do we maybe take out one, it's first about awareness, like what rocks are you carrying with you? Because some of them we know about, and others we might have forgotten why we put them there in the first place, and they're no longer serving us. So, there's some rocks that you can't remove. Like if you're a parent and you have children and there's a burden there, especially if you have a child that needs special care, or where I am in my life, like my dad's getting older. So, that's a heavy lift to be a parent to your parent. So I'm not going to remove that rock, but there's some rocks from my past about maybe being worried about what other people think of me when I drop off of a Zoom, and, the feeling of being judged or whatever, like letting go of those rocks to look, ease the burden that we carry. What that does though, is it creates a little bit more space in our backpack, space in our lives. So when the unexpected happens, like it just did, we have the wherewithal, the thoughtfulness, if you will, to say, okay, we know how to fix this. Like it's just going to be a moment. And we don't really get freaked out, or we don't get really triggered or activated. So then when we do fix it, like we did just now, we can come back into things, come back into the conversation, and really make that connection that we really want to make.
Yeah.
that's true.
No, very, very true, and beautifully put. Sarah, any questions for Michael?
Yes, I'd like to ask Michael if he would walk us like a new member of his community in his app. So we get this video, and then what happens? Are we just left to our own devices to choose our own meditations? Because then I get all confused, because then we have live calls that we can join, and then there's a lot of things going on.
Yeah.
If you
So
just walk us through it so that people know what to expect.
yeah. So as you come into the app, you get like a little welcome video. And there's also in that welcome video, I do encourage you to attend one of our live practices. So at that point in time, you get to experience something in person, or at least through Zoom, and see some of the members of the community, because the times don't necessarily work for everyone at every day. And so we come into the live practice, and the way we set up the app is that there's always like a short like moment to, pause, which is a short practice that you see. There's the breath work. We might offer up a breath work exercise. And then the reflect piece of it, there's a journaling feature on our app that only you as a member, you only see what you write. I don't see anything and no one else does. So you always have that. And we change that throughout the day to give you different moments to either pause, breathe, reflect. Each day there is a daily meditation that pops up in the morning when you first open up. So like you open up the app the next day after you got the welcome video, maybe you've attended one of the live practices. So you open up the app and there's a daily video, daily meditation that you can do, or you can do one of your favorite ones on the app because there's over 600 meditations on the app. And the really cool thing about the app now is that we've added a search feature. We call it Michael AI, although that gives me a little bit of the heebie-jeebies, to be honest. It's like, all right, because what I really try to communicate is like you're getting like real humans with this. But the really cool thing about the search feature is that what I've found happening with a lot of other apps is that you go into it and it's overwhelming. Like, how do I find the meditation I really want to find? It's going to take me 10 minutes to find a 3-minute practice. So with the search feature, you can just type in to say, I'm having a stressful time at work, or I'm about to do a workshop presentation and I need to just center myself, or I just got kicked out of a Zoom call because my phone got overheated. Do you have a practice? And you can type that in. And then the AI part of the search will offer up several recommendations for you. And this really is helpful because I think a lot of us have decision fatigue. Like with every aspect of our lives, like, the main question that we get every day, if you have a family, hey, what's for dinner? Right? Like some days you're just like, I don't know what's for dinner. We're just going to order a dang pizza. Like every day. It's just,
Wawa.
like,
Our answer is Wawa.
wow. Yeah. So, but think about that, just like normal day life. Like we get that question is like, what do you want to eat? What's for dinner? What do we do here? What do we do there? There are so many decisions we're making, and the search feature allows us to ease that decision fatigue and gives the person the meditation that's perfect for them for that given moment. So that's really cool. So, and then as people get used to the app, my encouragement is like, let's just do like short practices, like once a day, and really develop this healthy habit. My feeling is if we had 8 billion people on this planet, if we all just took 1 minute to pause, breathe, reflect each day, we would have a much more peaceful world. Like just slow it down just a bit and really connect with each other so we hear and see and appreciate each other a little bit more today than we did yesterday.
It's amazing. Yes. Yes. And the app, definitely people, and I speak for myself, I'm not very tech savvy and I don't like apps a lot. So, it's cool that that decision that you just go through all the meditations that's not put on me. So that I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, because it's hard, there's some other like pretty well-known apps out there. You go to it, you're like, you don't even know where to begin. And
Exactly.
so with Pause, Breathe, Reflect, what we give people is a real community with like real mindfulness coaching through me, but also the like-hearted humans in our community. And you have shorter practices for that busy professional, and doing the search through the AI also saves some time. So we're over indexing, if you will, on appreciating someone's time, also appreciating someone's well-being, whether it's physical or mental, and get the type of coaching so we can do this pause, breathe, reflect as a way of living, as opposed to just a daily transactional thing that we might do every now and again.
I love it. I love the search feature. That's a great feature. And you don't have to say like, I need a meditation for anxiety. You don't have to be specific. You can just say, I need to feel grounded. I need, I'm going shopping and I'm not in the right mindset, or, whatever you're dealing with. You can write it. You can write whatever you're feeling, and it'll give you a meditation for that.
Absolutely. And more meditations to come. So like last night, my oldest daughter called me, and there was a, little bit of a scrape on her car. Something happened, parking lot issue. She gets out and there's some damage to her car, brand new car, because she just moved out to Denver. And she's, upset, as you would imagine her to be. And so she would have been able to sort of type something in like, I'm really worried about my car, or like my car just got damaged. And, as the search gets better and better, would pop up like a meditation just for a minute or two to be like, all right, let's slow things down. Let's catch our breath. And then the reflect piece of it is like, okay, what's called for now? Like, okay, your car is damaged. It's still drivable. You are going to have to deal with insurance, which is a pause, breathe, reflect moment for sure. But
Yes.
you can be like, it just helps us slow things down so we can be more thoughtful and less reactive. And so then the stress doesn't, we're still going to have stress in our lives. It helps it from building up too much where we snap, right? So having these little micro breaks throughout the day lowers the stress, sort of like waves in an ocean. The wave keeps on coming in, pause, breathe, reflect, stress gets lowered. And so we're surfing the waves. And then this way, we don't get way up here and someone who is closest to us does something like spills some milk and we snap.
Mm-hmm.
And then we beat ourselves up for not being a good parent or what have you. So my whole thing is like, just weave it into your day. And that way you can just deal with the stress in a much healthier way than just doing 10 minutes in the morning. And then that's it. Because by 2 p.m., the stress is probably built back up again.
Yeah. I love that. And I love how you said, just ride the wave.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just like learn how to surf, like a surfer is like, surfing those waves and making little micro adjustments as she's surfing the wave. And as professionals, as adults, we need to make these micro adjustments as we surf our own waves of like normal day life. And, that's why like weaving it into our day becomes so vital. It's for anyone doing yoga out there, it's like, it's taking the practice off the mat, or in a meditation way of thinking about it, it's taking your practice off the cushion. And you're doing your yoga, you're doing your meditation. If we do that in the morning, that's awesome. But now we want to take it through, and it becomes a way of living that is just healthier for us, and it creates more belonging for all of us.
Beautiful. Very nice. I also wanted to ask you about your podcast. If you just want to spend a few minutes just talking about your podcast, which you also have, which is wonderful.
Yeah. Well, thanks for asking. Yeah, the podcast is called Kintsugi. It's based on the Japanese art form and philosophy. So this is a really cool concept. So when pottery breaks, the piece of pottery, like a bowl, it's beautiful. It comes out of the kiln and it's like, gorgeous, but, things break, humans break. And when the pottery breaks, what they do, the artist brings the pottery back together, reconnects the pieces using something called a urishi, which is a lacquer, a glue, if you will, and they dust it with gold. So the pottery comes back together and you have these gold fracture lines, these scars, if you will. And the whole concept of Kintsugi is like, we will break as humans, but we can come back together. And instead of hiding our scars from sight, we're going to profile them in gold. We're going to celebrate them. And they're symbols now of our strength. They're symbols of our resilience. And there's beauty in the imperfect. And so the Kintsugi podcast is about how do we connect with ourselves and each other, because we do break, but we can come back together. and we come back together and we're beautiful, just like that original piece of pottery. We're just beautiful in a different way. We're not more beautiful or less beautiful. We're just beautiful before we break and then when we come back together. And so what I want for people is celebrate your scars. So like celebrate those wrinkles and those gray hairs and the fewer hairs and the blemishes, and like they're all symbols that we've lived a life. There's wisdom in all that stuff, and there's strength in all those things that may have stressed us out, may have broken us, but we're here today. So that says a lot about who we are. And what I would love for people to do more of is just celebrate that, as opposed to trying to have a filter on every photo we post on Instagram, or masking away what we think are our flaws. So everything is just perfect. Nothing really is. It's all like, perfectly imperfect. So let's just dive into that and really celebrate it.
I love that. I love how you put that. That's and can people reach your podcast through the app, or is it separate?
They can reach it through the app, but like with any podcast, like wherever you listen to your podcasts, it's probably there. And they can also go to my website and they can listen to it there. The website is michaelobrienshift.com. So that's a place where people can learn about the coaching I provide, but also the Kintsugi podcast and Pause, Breathe, Reflect, and all of our cool merch and all that stuff like that. So, but like if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, to name two, the podcast is there.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll put all those links with this video as well, so people will know how to reach you. So final question, is there anything that we haven't asked you that you'd like to tell our audience?
Well, that's a great question. Well, first, just again, thank you both for having me. And I'm glad we really had that little kerfuffle, because that's like real life and a real pause, breathe, reflect moment. So I would just say this is like, as we go through life, we're gonna have challenging moments. There's no doubt. It's like things are not going to go the way we want them to go all the time. When we meet those moments, part of one definition of mindfulness is to remember. So we remember to come back to our breath, because our breath is our body's regulator. So we remember in our tough moments to slow things down, come back to our breath. And since we've been through a lot already as us, as adults and humans and all that jazz, we can also remember that we can do hard things. We can get through our hardest moments. And so that remembering piece of it is like, all right, I got this. You've got this. We've got each other. And with each other, we can put a good ripple into the world. So that's the simplest definition of mindfulness for me. It's just to simply remember to slow it down and come back to your breath.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here and for writing that article for the magazine. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you both for like profiling Pause, Breathe, Reflect. And, I'm eager to welcome new members to our community and spread some lightheartedness into the world.
Yes. We all need a
Well,
little bit of
thank
that.
you, Michael. Yeah. And, continue rippling, because you're doing great stuff out there. So we really appreciate it.
You're
Yes.
welcome.
All right. You have a great day. And thanks again, Michael. Really appreciate you.
Yeah. Be well. Have a good rest of your week.
You as well.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.